Larry Bird, known as one of the greatest shooters of all time, was essentially the modern Stephen Curry before Curry became a thing. When reflecting on the classic NBA days during the Bird and Magic Johnson era, no shooter comes to mind quite like Larry. He popularized the three-point shot long before the NBA fully embraced its power, setting the stage for the current trend of three-point shooting, where I think it's really dominating today's league. In today's NBA, where long-range shooting is pretty much mandatory on just about every player, Bird's playstyle not only would shine back then, but revolutionized the game today. So before we move any further, I just want to say thank the Lord above, King Jesus, for another day and another opportunity. So comment down TG for thank God and where you're tuning in from, and I will definitely be sure to get back to you with the response. And if it was your first time coming through, be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. Smash that like button. Turn on post notifications to be a part of the Rich family. Now, when it comes towards Bird's playstyle, it wasn't just about shooting, but it was about having an impact with and without the ball, making him one of the biggest threats. So in NBA 2K25, I think this translates perfect into an archetype ideal for players looking to be adaptable and versatile for pretty much just about any game mode. So whether it's from pulling up from three after a screen or even from a mid-range fade, I think this build is about making smart plays without the ball. And even if you have the rock, this build definitely possesses the power to do some damage. So I would say this build really does capture that legacy of Larry Bird. And if you're thinking about crafting a stretch big this year, you're in for a big treat because we have more attributes available than we've ever had to create a build that feels more authentic to Larry Bird's playstyle. So the archetype I'm proposing really brings back that feel of the stretch bigs from NBA 2K15 and 19, where I feel like they were amongst the most effective builds in the game, especially with the debate around RNG shooting. In NBA 2K25, I can say consistent shooters always defy the stigma, much like Larry Bird did in his era. So with this build, you're going to thrive at the perimeter, but also in that mid-range game where I feel like the midi fade has really become a staple in the competitive scene. And really, it does make it one of the best builds because you still have that three-point shooting in your arsenal. So this year, I can say rhythm shooting has made a significant impact on my gameplay. It really does allow me to shoot smoother. It feels more natural, especially when it comes towards the feel of shooting. And I can say it's really allowed me to transition smoothly from button shooting to rhythm. So this mechanic, I feel like, is truly beneficial for builds with lower shooting attributes, and it really does help green shots more consistently, especially from mid-range and beyond the arc. This is a huge mechanic that I feel like they introduced in NBA 2K25. I've even seen defenders often leave players wide open from three, man. I've noticed a lot of defenses leave players open, and I think that's going to be a huge W with this archetype because you're definitely going to be able to knock your shots down. And I can say the rhythm of your shot is really going to be your ally this year. It really pretty much turns every single shot into a chance for you to make it, especially if you know that rhythm. So if you're leaning more towards using this archetype even in my career or offline modes, I can say stretch bigs are definitely back in a big way in NBA 2K25, especially if you do master off ball. That's going to be something even better. So with many players, focusing on rim running, I think your ability to shoot from anywhere on the court is going to be huge and game changing, especially once you master rhythm shooting. That's going to be effective, but even once you learn how to dribble on this build, that's even better. I've actually used basic sides up escape, and that's what you're actually seeing on screen, and what looks like I'm doing a side to side cheese or crossover. This build really does allow you to shoot over shorter defenders, and I think that makes a huge impact on the offense and the defensive side. So the versatility of this build, you're not just stuck with shooting, but you can pretty much do everything from the offense or defense. You're really one of the best multi-phase players who can pretty much adapt to just about any game mode and setting. I can say defensively, this build just is about scoring, but you can definitely get stops, contest shots, and be a versatile threat on that defensive end, especially with this kind of height. Out of all archetypes that I've used this year, I can say this one specifically gives me that feeling of playing back in NBA 2K15 specifically because I feel like I'm playing on a stretch big. I can pull from anywhere. I feel confident with the jump shots, and everything feels smooth, especially when it comes toward dribbling. Now, I don't know, for those of y'all who have played NBA 2K15, let me know your thoughts and opinions. How do y'all feel about this gameplay? It looks very similar to Crossover 16 from back in the day. Now let me tell you, those of you who don't know what Crossover 16 is, this pretty much allowed you to do this side-to-side cheese back and forth at just about any height at the same speed, if not better, on taller builds. And that's really allowed me to try to replicate just a small glimpse of that in NBA 2K25 today. And I think that is one of the best features of that video that I mentioned earlier of the basic size-up escape. So I would highly recommend you go ahead and check that out. This has been a really fun archetype to play on, especially when it comes towards that defensive end. It's still able to hold its own, but when it comes towards that offensive side, I can say there is not one build that's going to be able to stop this one. I've made sure that I've equipped it well enough to be one of the biggest threats on the floor at all times, especially in the 1v1 setting. That is definitely my favorite game mode to play this year, and it really does allow you to see what these archetypes can do at their max potential. And I want to say thank every single one of you for the support, man. You know, with minimal finishing stats, you can really shift your focus towards shooting and playmaking. But like I mentioned, basic sides-up escape is truly the most effective move, in my opinion, this year. And it really does allow you to navigate through defenses much easier without this move. I'm telling you, it's much different. So I'll include a link in the description with a pop-up card where you can learn how I'm dribbling exactly like this. And I want you to go ahead and check that video out. And that's really showing you that this build isn't just about replicating Bird's shooting, but about embodying a complete game from playmaking, finishing, shooting, of course defense, and all around being a leader on both ends of the court. I think this is the perfect build for that. You know, one of the most unique aspects of Larry Bird, I'm gonna say, is his trash talking, man. It really did affect players on the court, and that's something that stands true still in NBA 2K25. Even though it's just a video game, I've noticed players get heated even when I'm using this build. So in NBA 2K25, you can use this build not only to outscore your opponents, but man, go ahead and talk that trash like Larry. You know, with the right badges, the animations, you can really create some of the best moments. And I can say that's really going to replicate Bird's career. This has been one of the biggest game-changing builds that I've used and made this year. And I think it's perfect to match that spirit of Larry Bird. You know, being versatile with this build pretty much in just about any game mode is going to be a key feature. Whether you're going into the park, the pro-am, the rec, even the comp scene, I can say this build is really going to allow you to strategize and be successful, man. So you can pivot from being the primary scorer, a facilitator, even switch to a defensive role when needed. And I think that's where this flexibility is really going to stand out. And that's what made Larry Bird one of the best players of his era. And it really does allow you to enjoy the flow of NBA 2K25. You're not locked into one play style. You can really evolve with what you're needed at that moment. So when it comes towards the takeovers, this is going to be completely up to you. Now, personally, what I think is going to be best is that if you pick a takeover that is going to help you out with the finishing, or if you want to go ahead and make a few adjustments towards this build, you can definitely add some strength towards it, potentially get an 84 strength. That way you can pick great wall takeover ability to reach that 99 and help you maintain an even bigger defensive presence. So feel free to tweak the attributes to match your own play style, and you can really keep NBA 2K25 with making new builds like this. So for those of y'all who have been playing NBA 2K25 for some years, you know, this build might remind you of the days when 2K gave you that feeling of being able to create 2K15 stretch bigs. I can say with the shooting mechanics this year, this has definitely become one of my favorite years for rhythm shooting. It's really opened my eyes to what the 2K dev team saw with rhythm shooting itself, really allowing new players to catch on and catch up with vets. And I think rhythm shooting is really one of the best mechanics that we've been given this year. So when it comes towards using this Larry Bird build, I can definitely say when I'm on the court, it definitely feels as though a lot of players are automatically double teaming me when I go in team settings. Now, it's really effective, especially if you take it into the rec. Not only because it's easier to shoot in those kind of game modes, but once you get your takeover, that's really going to allow you to really show you what this build can do shooting wise. So I have actually used this build with marksman shooting takeover ability, and I can say it makes a huge difference. Even if you wanted to go ahead and pick a takeover that upgrades the mid-range shot, this build is definitely effective out of that area as well. You know, I didn't want to focus too much on the finishing, but just enough to be effective to where you can still be a threat down low. Now the defense, I can say this, the biggest factor is going to be your height. I've actually learned this from other 2K YouTubers, even the 2K lab team, and also myself from playing. I've played builds that are anywhere from 5'9" to 7'3", and I can definitely say, even if you're on a build that has no defensive attributes but max height, you're going to be able to get contests as if you had attributes. Now, let's just go ahead and say you max out all of the defensive attributes on a 5'9" build. You're not going to get any contest if you're going up against a player that is anywhere from at least a foot taller than you. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. Height plays a huge factor with defenses here. So even if you wanted to make a few changes or adjustments to actually get more defensive presence on this build, you can even raise that height. I would really consider to make this archetype to where it fits your own playstyle, possibly different shooting bases and releases, or even passing styles and playmaking animations. That's another great option. I don't want to limit y'all with any type of build that I bring to you. That's why I'm showing y'all 3 different versions today. So if you have a certain NBA player or build that you want to see in the next video, I'm curious, so let me know down below in the comment section. And I really want to say thank every single one of y'all, the Rich family, for your support and sticking through to the very end. Number 1, I just want to say thank the Lord above, King Jesus, for another day and another opportunity. And if it was your first time coming pro, be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. Smash that like button. Turn on post notifications to be a part of the Rich family. And last but definitely not least, with all that being said though, I got one last thing to say. God bless you, and Rich out.